Good evening, everyone. I hope you've had a productive day. We've had a great day here. We got a lot accomplished, which always makes me feel really good at the end of the day to feel like we've accomplished some good things. What I wanted to read tonight is Nehemiah Chapter 9. And just as a reminder, in Nehemiah Chapter 7 and 8, we were talking about them finishing up the wall, and then that they were reading the law of Moses, the book of the law, to the people, and not just reading it to them, but taking care to have folks going around and explaining the law to them to make sure that each person understood what they were hearing when the law was read to them. And they also observed the Feast of Booths. Also, it's called the Feast of Tabernacles. We talked about that last time. And so that's where we are picking up this week when we get to chapter 9. And chapter 9 is so interesting because the first time I read it in preparation to share, I thought, oh, well, this is a really good history chapter because it really just summarizes the relationship between God and Abraham, and then God and the Israelite people throughout history. And so that was really interesting. And when I read it the second time, again, studying it, it just amazed me. It floored me because it is almost a character sketch of God. And so what I mean by that in literature, and Joey would probably tell me I'm wrong because a character sketch is a little bit different, but in literature, a character sketch would be when someone has read a work and then writes out sort of a detailed description of a particular character in that book or in that story based on what they read. And so I guess the character sketch would be if I took this chapter and then wrote about God. But in this chapter, and it's only 38 verses, you get a very clear picture of God's character and who he is and what he is as far as character qualities go. And I made a long list of them as I was reading it again, and I got so blessed because I thought, wow, like if you wanted to show somebody in a very concise way, you know, who God is and what his character is, this chapter is a great example because you see so many of these just wonderful character qualities that God has, and the things that he is. I'm searching for the right word and I'm not hitting on it, but you get my point. But just from reading this chapter, you really get a clear sense of how good God is and those character qualities that he embodies, I guess might be a better word. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read this chapter straight through. And then once I'm done reading, then I want to back up and talk about the character qualities of God that I saw in this chapter, that were shown in this chapter. And so this is Nehemiah chapter 9. And it says, "Now in the 24th day of this month, the children of Israel were assembled with fasting and with sackcloths and earth upon them. And the seed of Israel separated themselves from all strangers and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. And they stood up in their place, and they read in the book of the law of the Lord their God 1/4 part of the day, and another 4th part they confessed and worshiped the Lord their God." So 1/4 of the day they're reading God's word, and another 1/4 of the day they're confessing and they're worshiping God. Then stood up upon the stairs of the Levites Jeshua and Bani, Kadmiel, Shebaniah, Bunai, Shuribiah, Bani, and Chenani, and cried with a loud voice unto the Lord their God. Then the Levites, Jeshua and Kadmiel, Bani, Hashabniah, Sherebiah, Hodijah, Shebaniah, and Pethahiah, said, Stand up and bless the Lord your God forever and ever, and blessed be thy glorious name, which is exalted above all blessing and praise. Thou, even thou, art Lord alone. Thou hast made heaven and the heaven of heavens, with all their host, the earth and all the things that are therein, the seas and all that is therein, and thou preservest them all, and the host of heaven worshipeth thee. Thou art the Lord, the God who didst choose Abram, and broughtest him forth out of Ur of the Chaldees, and gavest him the name of Abraham, and foundest his heart faithful before thee, and madest a covenant with him to give the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Jebusites, and the Girgashites, to give it, I say, to his seed, and hast performed thy words, for thou art righteous. And didst see the affliction of our fathers in Egypt, and heardest their cry by the Red Sea, and showedest signs and wonders upon Pharaoh, and on all his servants, and on all the people of his land, for thou knewest that they dealt proudly against them. So didst thou get thee a name, as it is this day. And thou didst divide the sea before them, so that they went through the midst of the sea on the dry land, and their persecutors thou threwest into the deeps, as a stone into the mighty waters. Moreover, thou leddest them in the day by a cloudy pillar, and in the night by a pillar of fire, to give them light in the way wherein they should go. Thou camest down also upon Mount Sinai, and spakest with them from heaven, and gavest them right judgments and true laws, good statutes and commandments, and madest known unto them thy holy Sabbath, and commandest them precepts, statutes, and laws by the hand of Moses thy servant. And gavest them bread from heaven for their hunger, and broughtest forth water for them out of the rock for their thirst, and promised them that they should go in to possess the land which thou hast sworn to give them. But they and our fathers dealt proudly, and hardened their necks, and hearkened not to thy commandments, and refused to obey, neither were mindful of thy wonders that thou didst among them, but hardened their necks, and in their rebellion appointed a captain to return to their bondage. But thou art a God ready to pardon, gracious and merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and forsookest them not. Yea, when they had made them a molten calf, and said, This is thy God, that brought thee out of Egypt, and had wrought great provocations, yet thou in thy manifold mercies forsookest them not in the wilderness. The pillar of the cloud departed not from them by day, to lead them in the way, neither the pillar of fire by night, to show them light, and the way wherein they should go. Thou gavest also thy good spirit to instruct them, and withheldest not thy manna from their mouth, and gavest them water for their thirst. Yea, 40 years didst thou sustain them in the wilderness, so that they lacked nothing. Their clothes waxed not old, and their feet swelled not. Moreover, thou gavest them kingdoms and nations, and didst divide them into corners, so they possessed the land of Sihon, and the land of the king of Heshbon, and the land of Og, king of Bashan. Their children also multiplied, thou as the stars of the heavens, and broughtest them into the land concerning which thou had promised to their fathers that they should go in to possess it. So the children went in and possessed the land, and thou subduest before them the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, and gavest them into their hands with their kings and the people of their land, that they might do with them as they would. And they took strong cities and a fat land, and possessed houses full of all goods, wells digged, vineyards and olive yards, and fruit trees in abundance. So they did eat and were filled, and became fat, and were delighted themselves in thy great goodness. Nevertheless, they were disobedient, and rebelled against thee, and cast thy law behind their backs, and slew thy prophets, which testified against them, to turn them to thee, and they wrought great provocations. Therefore thou deliverest them into the hand of their enemies, who vexed them. And in the time of their trouble, when they cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and according to thy manifold mercies, thou gavest them saviors, who saved them out of the hand of their enemies. But after they had rest, they did evil again before thee. Therefore leftest thou them in the hand of their enemies, so that they had the dominion over them. Yet when they returned and cried unto thee, thou heardest them from heaven, and many times didst thou deliver them according to thy mercies, and testifiedst against them, that thou mightest bring them again unto thy law. Yet they dealt proudly, and hearkened not unto thy commandments, but sinned again against thy judgments, which if a man do, he shall live in them, and withdrew the shoulder, and hardened their neck, and would not hear. Yet many years didst thou forbear them, and testifiedst against them by the Spirit in thy prophets, yet would they not give ear. Therefore gavest thou them into the hand of the people of the lands. Nevertheless, for thy great mercy's sake, thou didst not utterly consume them, nor forsake them, for thou art a gracious and merciful God. Now therefore our God, the great, the mighty, and the terrible God, who keepest covenant and mercy, let not all the trouble seem little before thee that hath come upon us, on our kings, on our princes, and on our priests, and on our prophets, and on our fathers, and on all thy people, since the time of the kings of Assyria unto this day. Howbeit thou art just in all that is brought upon us, for thou hast done right, but we have done wickedly. Neither have our kings, our princes, our priests, nor our fathers kept thy law, nor hearkened unto thy commandments, and thy testimonies wherewith thou didst testify against them. For they have not served thee in their kingdom, and in thy great goodness that thou gavest them, and in the large and fat land which thou gavest before them, neither turned they from their wicked works. Behold, we are servants this day, and for the land that thou gavest unto our fathers, to eat the fruit thereof, and the good thereof, behold, we are servants in it. And it yieldeth much increase unto the kings, whom thou hast set over us because of our sins. Also they have dominion over our bodies, and over our cattle, at their pleasure, and we are in great distress. And because of all this, we make a sure covenant, and write it, and our princes, Levites, and priests seal unto it. And that's the end of chapter 9. So if we back up, let's just go over. I made a list of character qualities of God that show up in this history of the relationship of God to Abraham and then to the Israelite nation. So we see God is faithful. He is faithful to do what he said he was going to do. So his promise to Abraham that his seed would multiply and the numbers would be like the stars in the heavens, that came to pass, right? And so he made that promise, and he made a promise to bring, which they don't exactly mention here, but to bring the Israelites out of Egypt, and he did that as well. And he also told them that when they were in captivity during the Babylonian rule, and that included Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He told them they would be, in captivity for 70 years, and that was true too. He was faithful. He is trustworthy. God, we see here, is a God that keeps his promises. He means what he says and says what he means. And when he says he's going to do something, he does do it. He is also merciful and gracious and patient and forgiving. Time and again, we see the Israelites turn their back on God. And time and again, when they cry out for help, God is forgiving. Time and again, when they are complaining and whining and asking to go back to Egypt, to slavery, God is patient with them and is merciful and gracious and doesn't give them what they deserve, but instead takes care of them, right? He gives them food when they need it. He gives them water when they need it. He delivers them out of the hands of their enemies. He is a mighty and great God and a delivering God. We see his might when he protects the Israelites from the advancing Egyptian army. And he parts the Red Sea, and they cross on dry ground, and then the Egyptian army is annihilated. All the miracles and signs and wonders that he does in Egypt, all the different times that he rescues them out of hands of enemies, or provides 40 years worth of manna and water in the desert, and even said that their clothes didn't fall apart and that their feet didn't swell during all of that time when they're wandering in the desert. So he's a delivering God. He's a protecting God. Again, same thing. He's rescuing them time and again. He is a light unto their path and a light unto ours. And specifically, it said here in verse 19, after they said they wanted to go back to Egypt, and then after they went and made the molten calf and said, hey, look, here's this God that rescued you out of Egypt. He didn't forsake them. He didn't leave them then. Instead, it says the pillar, this is verse 19, the pillar of the cloud departed not from them by day to lead them in the way, neither the pillar of fire by night to show them light and the way wherein they should go. So he was a light to their path, even when they were so far off base and not in fellowship with him. Several times in here, it talks about that he was a compassionate God. He had compassion for them when they found themselves in difficult situations, even when it was the result of their own choices that had put them in these difficult situations. And loving. Clearly, we see how loving God is in this chapter in caring for, delivering, protecting, and forgiving over and over and over again these people. We see he's a God of great wisdom. He gives them the right things to do. They a lot of times choose not to do them. And he is a good, wonderful, great God. And we can see that by the history that's given here of how he has taken care of and treated and loved the Israelite people. One thing that I did fail to write down, which was in one of these verses, is verse 8. It says, and found his heart faithful, talking about Abraham, and made us a covenant with him to give the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Jebusites, and the Girgashites, to give it, I say, to his seed. And thou hast performed thy words, for thou art righteous. So God is righteous. And that's another promise that he had made to Abraham. Not only that his seed would be like the stars, it would number like the stars in the heavens, but that his descendants would possess this land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, and the Jebusites, and the Girgashites. And that came to pass too, because he is a faithful God and he is trustworthy. And he is a mighty God that can do what he says he's going to do, and he keeps his word. So I was so blessed to read this chapter because, like I said, it gives you a clear picture of God's character just in these little 38 verses. And of course, this Bible is full of examples that show us who God is and what his character is. But it was so neat to see so much of that demonstrated in this one chapter, in this short history summary of his relationship between him and Abraham and then him and the Israelites. So I just got really blessed reading it, and I hope you did too. So I'm going to pray. God, thank you so much for this time together this evening. Thank you that you are a gracious, loving, merciful, righteous, patient, delivering God, that you protect us, that you never leave us, that you forgive us, and welcome us back with open arms when we make a mistake or go astray, that you're waiting for us to come back with open arms because you want a relationship with us. That has been your desire since the beginning, is to have this relationship and this family. And so we're so very thankful that because of the accomplished work of Jesus Christ, God, that we can be a part of your family. Thank you so much for all you do for us each and every day. And we are just so blessed to have the opportunity in this life to share the good news of what you allowed Christ to accomplish for us so that others can be part of your family too. So we thank you again. We ask you to bless the rest of our evening and our week. And we ask all this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Have a great rest of the week, everybody. Love to you all.